Welcome to MaddenCast, episode 4. This is Vols. Alongside me tonight's going to be OMG. How are you, OMG?
I'm great. I'm ready for this advance. So I can play my next game.
I'm right there with you. We got a couple things on the agenda tonight. We're going to be discussing Cincy's interview with JTG. Going to go over the power rankings. We're going to talk about the Beyond the Whistle show. Maybe talk about some reviews of it. And then we got a new segment later on in the show we're going to introduce and discuss. First thing on the agenda, though, is JTG, the Arizona Cardinals owner, and his interview with Cincy. Did you get to see the interview with Cincy, OMG?
I did. I glanced at it when I was at work, and then I just had to read it today because I honestly forgot what the conversation was like. It was a pretty good interview. I like it because, as a new guy, it's a good way to like get him really involved into the league and make him feel comfortable and like accepted. And it's also good for us guys who have already been here to get a good idea of who he is and stuff like that.
Right. I found it very interesting just because there'd been those rumors that he had won Super Bowls in other leagues and that he could potentially be tanking in our league. So what do you think? What do you think about that?
Um, I don't think he's taking. I do. I doubt that he doesn't really mind losing as much if it means a better draft pick. Like anyone wouldn't mind, but is he trying to lose? I don't know. I feel like what he said was perfect in terms of like goals and stuff. I think Madden implementing that makes it really hard to tank. Um, I just honestly don't think he is. The team isn't that great to begin with, and he's got a team in a bad situation. I'm sure their confidence is down, so they're not playing to their abilities.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's hard for. I know people do it. I've done it, but I don't know. This league is just so competitive where even with a not so great team, you can win. Look at what Terrorize is doing with the Jets. So I
Right.
don't know. I don't think he is. I believe him, and especially if it's true that he's won Super Bowls before.
So you think he's just struggling?
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's a really tough division. You got the Rams, who's easily probably the best team in the league. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
a lot of pressure in that league, in that division.
Right. And he kind of called him out at the end of the interview. Put him on blast and told him kind of look out for him in year 2. So I
Hmm.
think I don't really expect much from him the rest of the season. I think he'll probably have the number 1 pick, and we'll see what he can do in year 2. What kind of expectations do you have for him in year 2?
Um, as of right now, I think he's going to continue to struggle unless he has a really great offseason. I think that goes like needless to say, but I haven't looked at the remaining games in his schedule. But if he wins any clutch games against top teams, I think regardless of how his offseason goes, if he proves that he can beat one of these teams, I guarantee he's going to be scary next season.
Yeah, his schedule should be coming up on the stream here in just a second. He's got a pretty tough remaining schedule. He's got bread, of course, this week. I don't know if they're going to get to play or not. I think they are. Um, and then they got the Raiders, Chargers, Packers, Lions, Falcons, and then the Rams and
Mm.
Seahawks. I mean, it's not going to get
Yeah.
any easier.
That Rams game, even if he hasn't won any games since then, I'm looking for that Rams game. I don't know. The Rams are an interesting team. We'll talk about them later. But if
Yeah,
he beats the Rams towards the end of the season, he's not gonna. He's definitely not gonna want to lose that game. That's gonna be a statement game if he can beat them.
yeah. I think he's definitely got to at least show up and show that he can compete with him. Let's see. What do you think he can compete in that division starting next year?
So Seahawks have been struggling, and I don't know. I don't think the guy is that bad. The owner. I think it's just a bad mix of learning the game and the roster not being that great. So there's Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams. Who's that fourth team? 49ers?
Yeah, 49ers.
Ooh, 49ers are good too.
Yeah,
They have a nice squad. The owner has shown that he can compete. I think the NFC. I don't know what the NFC South. That's tough. and the NFC East has a couple teams too. So he's going to have to win a division because I don't see him out beating any team that could get a wild card spot from the South or the East. But I don't know. He definitely is going to have to start by beating the Rams twice because he went 9-1. Yeah, he has a chance to, but is he going to compete? Yeah. Is he going to make the playoffs? Probably not.
Yeah, I kind
And
of
it's not his fault.
right. He's just stuck in a. I mean, the NFC's tough. You got two really good conferences or divisions with the NFC South and the East. I mean, those both of those divisions are going to get one of the wild cards, if not both.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have the potential to get both wild cards, more so the NFC South than the East. But yeah, I think he's got to win the division. That's going to be really tough with the 49ers and the Rams. So and he kind of called out Wood. I don't really have the quote of what he said, but I know it was something along the lines of basically, I'm coming for you next year. You better be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be
And
interesting.
that if you don't mind, like I just want to jump into this Rams situation.
Go for it.
Um, I like him calling out the Rams, and I don't know. There's no so as an owner to go 9-1, it doesn't matter who you're playing. That's impressive. So I have to give him credit. I'm not taking away from his record, but I'm looking at the teams he beat, and he got that sim win I think against the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
And then I think he beat the Broncos. And so you would assume the Broncos is a good team too. So, that solidifies his status. But looking at the Broncos schedule, they really didn't beat anyone either. And I believe they also had a sim against the Chiefs too. So I don't know. I want to see the Rams play a legit, like top tier playoff contending team. Not to say that the Broncos aren't going to get there because clearly they are, but do I think they're good enough? I don't know. I mean, who has he played on his schedule that I really consider a playoff threat?
Right.
And I don't know. That 9-1 kind of looks shady now.
Yeah. Yeah. The Rams and the Broncos, you could argue, have been handed a couple breaks on their schedule so far. Um, Real quick, just something coming back from the chat. They're saying that they can hear the people in the background pretty good. So I don't know if you can.
Oh, you guys are loud. Say the people who are listening.
That's just what they're saying. They're asking if we can mute them in
Maybe
the
if go
background.
go sit over there. No offense. No, David, go sit over there. So that way, if you guys are talking, I'm not in between. Fine, I'll move. No, it's gone too far. Excuse me, sir. Okay.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. It's just what they were kind of saying in the chat. Let's see. So let's move on from JTG to the power rankings. These are week 9 power rankings, so they're not completely updated from this week that we're about to advance. But
I can't hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. They should be coming up on your screen here in just a second. What talk about the Rams? They've been number 1 for 4 consecutive weeks. That's a record so far in the early season of MHU. What do you take away from that? Him being number 1.
I mean, you only lose one game. I definitely think he deserves to be there. And he's running the ball like crazy style. Like Ronald Jones was super close to overcoming Gurley in the rushing leader, and now he has a 300-yard game. So clearly he's doing something right.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely earned the top spot, and then
I think if Joe doesn't tie that one game, I would say Joe. We could argue is number 1.
yeah, I agree. I mean he had a tough loss against Sundance, and then he tied with me. So I mean you take that tie away, he could kind of argue
Oh,
that
and
he has the top spot.
no offense to Hotep, because that's my guy, but they're kind of struggling this year. And didn't the Rams lose to the Vikings?
Yeah, that's who beat the Rams. Was
Like
the
what? And
Vikings who?
that's another thing that, like, I don't know. I think these guys are pretenders.
Yeah, I think they're I think the Vikings are down 25th in the power rankings, 3-6. So it's definitely not a good loss for the Rams, I will
Definitely not.
say. So, are there any surprises so far through the power rankings? Right, a little bit halfway past the season.
Uh, First surprise, I'm going to have to be completely honest. I did not think I would be that high. I started off this Madden very, very rough. Um, but I don't know. I guess we've kind of figured it out little by little. I'm surprised that the Packers and the Patriots are so low. 4-5 for the Patriots
Yep.
and 3-5 for the Packers. Like those are you got Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what more you want. I mean, I know the teams aren't that great overall, but they're pretty good. But that's about it. Everything else is about where I expected, except for the Steelers. Steelers made that big trade with me, and they're 1-7. That's very disappointing. Sorry, Denim.
Yeah, he's had a rough season so far, but he did. I think he just picked up his second win. He knocked off the Panthers, the number 5 team on the
Oh,
power rankings. So
nice.
he
Helping me out.
he's kind of showing up and trying to show everybody he's improving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who sticks out to you on this list? Just like I guess a good team that maybe is too high or too low.
Jaguars. Jaguars. For as good as that team is, and the teams they beat weren't that great, and the teams they lost to also were not that great. That's a team that kind of shocks me. Not, I mean, they're about where they belong based on their record. I expected them to be a lot higher with that team.
Yeah,
That's easily like one of the best Madden teams ever. I think Chiefs should be a little higher. He's got 6 wins. I would put him above Texans and Jaguars. But bread is bread. He's also got a bunch of sim wins, so I understand why he's
yeah.
down there.
I think all 3 of his losses have been sim losses as well. So
Oh.
I think that's kind of hurt him in the power rankings, taking some sims. I know he's a little busy doing things
Mm-hmm.
right now, so I get that. But I think that's why he's a little low. Um, and then the Jaguars, they lost again this week. I think Frank and the Colts beat Mickey and the Jags.
Terrible.
So Jags are hanging around 5-4. They're gonna slide down that list quite a bit.
That's so
So
sad.
we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So we'll move on from the power rankings and discuss the first episode of Beyond the Whistle with Ray and Sundance. What uh, what was your initial thoughts on the first show?
I liked it a lot, actually. I had a chance to listen to Sundance. I think that was the first time, and I don't know. He has an interesting take on things. I like the way he, uh, I don't know, just his presentation.
Yeah,
And then I don't know. It was kind of Ray's mic issues were kind of frustrating, but he was laying down some pretty good stuff. He
he,
was getting
he,
deep into it.
he was for sure. Yeah, the audio issues with him, I think we'll get them solved for the next episode.
Yeah,
But
for the first show, it's it
yeah,
is what it is.
yeah,
But I liked it a lot. It's different. I like getting more guys' opinions based on what's going on.
right. What what do you make of Ray? It kind of came out in the admin chat this past week that he didn't realize he was the star of Ray and Sundance Beyond the Whistle. He kind of thought he was on there just for a 1 week thing when his name is first in that title. So what'd you think about that?
I think he's silly. Like I don't know. I maybe he just wasn't ready. He didn't know how big he was going to be, how famous we were going to make him. I don't know if we can handle the pressure.
We'll find out. What staying on the topic of Ray, what did you think of him calling out Cincy? I think he said something like, "Prove you play the game, and
Mm,
you do more than just write articles." I mean, that's somebody that's pretty high up in our league. Talking about Cincy, what do you think about him calling him out?
I think it was fair. I don't think he really said anything overly disrespectful. I think it's kind of cool going back to like the interview with JTG and just like making guys feel welcome. Like I don't know, psychologically speaking, I'm gonna get a little educational right now, but I mean just that's part of the reason why we pick on each other is to include each other in a group. And I know since he's having a rough time and it's frustrating, losing in this game is really frustrating, especially when you're having a bad time. So I think it's a good way of like trying to motivate Cincy. You know, just giving him, trying to
Right.
light a little fire, give him a reason to play because he has something to prove now.
Yeah, he's got a lot
Even
to
though
prove.
he's got a lot going on.
Right. Yeah, I know he puts in a lot of time and effort into the league and to Madden. I know he practices and labs all the time
Yeah.
and scouts his opponents. And I'm sure it's really frustrating for him when he scouts his opponents and he still loses by multiple scores. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's frustrating. Uh, the next show is going to be Thursday, October 4th at 9:30 p.m. As long as our schedules match up, I think they will. So the next episode of Beyond the Whistle will be Thursday at 9:30.
Oh my
Um,
god, I can't wait.
yeah, it should be pretty good. Who do you think won the first debate between Ray and Sundance?
I'm gonna have to give this one to Sundance only because I could only hear Ray like 40% of the time.
Okay, so maybe if we'll get Ray's audio fixed, maybe he'll come back and dominate Sundance in the second episode.
Absolutely.
All right. We're gonna move on to the last segment of the show. It's gonna be a new one. I try to come out with new segments for MaddenCast each week. Eventually, we're gonna reuse these segments, but this week I have contender or pretender.
Mm.
So we're gonna talk about. I try to pick six of the top teams in my eyes in the power rankings. I kind of went on and picked some of the teams that based on this week that we haven't advanced yet too. So we'll get to the first team, the Los Angeles Rams. Uh, the remaining schedules here up on the stream. What do you think about the Rams? See a contender or pretender?
Um, that's a tough one. Based, I'm gonna say based on Madden skill, he's definitely a contender. Based on who he's beaten, he's a pretender. And the only reason why I think that matters is there is a difference when you get like a bread. And I'm not saying I'm like really great or like the best Madden player ever, but like bread versus me, I view that game as like a definite playoff feeling game. Like that game is very important to me. And so I don't know if he's really played anyone that has challenged him like that. Um, I think Broncos maybe is the like most hyped up game, but I don't know. I think he's. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the Broncos has been his biggest game so far, and I think he lost or no, he didn't lose, but he dominated the Broncos pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke earlier about his loss to the Vikings. It's kind of a bad loss when you look at the whole thing. But looking at his schedule, he's got a pretty easy schedule left. He's got Bread. I really hope Bread shows up and is able to play because I think that will be kind of his coming out party if he can beat Bread.
Yeah, I agree.
But then you got the Lions, the Bears. Those are average to above average teams. And then he's got the Eagles. So I think the Eagles that could be potentially an NFC championship preview.
Eagles are gonna win that game easily. I'm making a prediction right now.
You're going to
Eagles
predict it
over Rams
pretty easily.
easily.
Okay.
I think Joe's gonna blow Rams out. To be honest,
Okay.
no
Well,
offense, no offense to Rams. I'm just saying Joe's that good.
right. I'll be somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, so I won't get to see that game. But I'll be checking as soon as I get back into the U.S. And then he finishes the Cardinals and the 49ers. 49ers could be a tough Week 17 game, especially if he's got the 1 or 2 seed locked up. He could rest some of his guys for playoffs. So we'll see what happens with that. So you're going to say skill wise, he's a contender,
Oh yeah,
but schedule wise, who he's played, he's a pretender.
yeah. He hasn't proved
So
anything
you
yet.
think he's going to go out early in the playoffs, or you think he can stick around and maybe make a run?
I mean, last Madden, he's definitely proven that he can be a contender in the playoffs. So I think he's got a shot in playoffs. But
Yeah,
he hasn't really proven it to me this Madden yet. It's a new Madden, so
yeah.
and
I could see him losing. He's probably going to get a bye. I would be willing to bet he'll probably go out in the first round. That he can play. So the second round, I could see him losing and going out. I don't think he'll make the NFC Championship. I think the NFC's deeper with talent, but we'll see. All right, so move on from there to the AFC's top team, the Denver Broncos. Think he's a
Pu-
contender or pretender?
pull up that schedule for
It
me.
should be coming up right here in just 1 second.
Um, he is also a pretender. I don't think he's really proven it. And him especially, him more than Rams. I don't know how he's 6-1 or whatever the hell his record is, but I don't know. He's not a bad owner by any means, but I don't know. He hasn't really beaten anyone
Yeah,
like
he's seven and
significant.
one, and I don't know who he. I know he simmed against Bread twice,
Hmm.
but that was Bread's fault. Bread couldn't show up due to his obligations outside of Madden. So Denver got the force wins on that. So that he could easily be sitting at 5-3, which could
Hmm.
change the whole outlook of the AFC. So
Absolutely right.
it sounds like you're saying he's definitely a hardcore pretender.
Yes, without a doubt.
He's more than likely going to make the playoffs. Looking at his schedule,
And
he
that division.
yeah the 49ers is probably the only team that I could see giving him a fit down the
Yeah.
stretch. So he's probably going to have the 1 seed, maybe the 2 seed. He's definitely going to have a bye in the AFC champion or in the AFC playoffs. What kind of outlook do you have on him in the playoffs? You think he's kind of one and done, or you think he's got a chance to get the AFC championship?
The AFC is wide open. Uh, I think he has a chance to make it to the championship if he keeps on playing the way he's playing now. Definitely, AFC is wide open. I thought Jaguars would be running it, but Packers also, or not Packers, Patriots also not really in it. So
Yeah,
it's wide open.
yeah, I agree. It's deep. The AFC is deep with a lot of talent,
Hmm.
but we're all kind of beating up on each other right now. So we'll move on to the NFC's second best team, the Philadelphia Eagles. What you got him as a contender or pretender?
Joe, my man's, is definitely a contender. I don't know. It's Joe, and all his wins have been pretty solid. He beat me by one, and I'm like 6-2. He tied with you, and you're doing pretty good so far too. His like he's proven, and what Wentz is doing is just ridiculous. So soon
Yeah.
in the cycle.
Yeah, I watched this game against the Cowboys today. He struggled. Wentz struggled against the Cowboys. I don't know if he was just trying his best to blow Cowboys out because I know they kind of have that trash talk going. But
Hmm.
I think he threw 4 picks against the Cowboys.
Oh no, Joe.
Going into it, if I had to put money on Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz throwing more picks in that game, I would have bet the house on Dak Prescott.
Oh yeah.
And I think Prescott only threw one interception, and that was very late in the game.
Mm.
Cowboys played a really good game. He had a good
Okay.
strategy.
Okay, BZ, I see you.
So yeah, he got called out on beyond the whistle, and he stepped up his game against the Eagles. So we'll see how he finishes. But so you think the Eagles? You think they got a Super Bowl run in them, or
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. From the beginning of the cycle, Joe was already on my list, and not only just because it's Joe, but that team is stacked,
yeah? Oh
stacked.
yeah, it's one of the if not the best team, it's probably the second best team.
I didn't realize until today, looking at awards for best offensive line, the Eagles have 4 offensive linemen over 90 overall.
That makes things a lot easier on your offense.
Jesus.
All right, we'll shift from the Eagles to somebody who's come up a lot in conversation tonight, and that's Mickey and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm.
He's like I said, he got beat by the Colts. He dropped to 5-4. He's sitting right now third in his division in the AFC South, but I feel like he's one of the better teams in the AFC.
Hmm.
I know his record probably shows otherwise. What do you think about Mickey? You think he can turn it around and be a contender, or is he Still in the pretender category.
Nah, he's not to say he's doing terrible this season because he's really not. He's got a solid record, but for that team, I think it's underachieving, and so um, he can only go up from here. I think.
Yeah, yeah. He's looking at his schedule. I think the majority of the games are past him, but he's still got a couple games left that he could lose that are going to be tough. The Bills, he's not a pushover. That could be a game to watch out for. Frank's already beat him once. My game against him will unfortunately be a forced win for him because I won't be here. So that kind of sucks. But and then after that, the last week against the Texans, I'm not sure who won their first matchup, but I think the Texans beat him.
Hmm.
So I mean, you're looking right there between the Bills, Colts, and Texans. He could have three more losses, and that's seven losses. I don't know if that's gonna get it done to get into the playoffs.
Hecky no.
So I think he can turn it around though, and I think he can definitely be a contender in the AFC. But right now, it's kind of still too early to tell if he's even going to be in the playoffs. So I can't really say if he's going to be able to contend. So time will tell. And we'll move to the last team on the NFC side, and that's Sundance and his New York Giants. What do you think about Sundance so far? Do you think he's a contender? Or do you think he's a pretender?
Sundance is definitely a contender. Um, did you guys play?
We haven't. We play in week 15, and
Okay.
it'll be a force win for him.
Oh, that
So
sucks. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that Giants team is really young, and the reason why, regardless of, I know I like to take schedule into consideration, but the reason why he's a definite contender is because he's managed to kill it with Eli Manning and Lauletta. It doesn't matter who he's got at quarterback.
right.
He's throwing for who knows how many yards and just winning games and clutch games too. And you got Saquon Barkley. He's so scary, especially when you got Odell Beckham Jr. and Ingram, the tight end. Like that offense is just terrifying.
And he's having a heck of a season with Sterling Shepard too.
Hmm. We were just talking about him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he kind of filled in when OBJ was out hurt with a fractured foot, and he's had a pretty good year. So, what do you think's going to happen with Sundance in the playoffs? You think he's Super Bowl bound, NFC Championship? What do you think?
Um, I think so. I think it's between him and Joe, and it's funny that they're in the same division because I've always believed that if you have the best owners in your division and you're playing them constantly, that's going to make you better.
Yeah,
And I think just Joe, by the time, honestly, I think by the time this Madden cycle's done, just Joe and Giants pushing each other, and I think they're probably going to be two of the best teams in the league.
yeah. I think next year, year three, them playing each other, they're going to make each other better.
Hmm.
And that's only going to be good for them. It's going to make them more dangerous to the league for sure. I can see Sundance getting to the Super Bowl, but I don't think he'll make it this year. I think he'll go out in the second round. Um, 'Cause I still think it's going to be Lone and Eagles to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. If I had to pick it right now, Lone was my Super Bowl uh, prediction out of the NFC from the start of the year, so I gotta kind of stick by that
Yeah,
for right now.
Lone is always a wild card. He always manages. Not to say he's cheese. I mean, he's done some cheesy stuff before, but the only reason why we think that is because he's always trying to think outside the box and find new ways to
Right.
attack you. So as long as he keeps doing that and keeps adjusting, it's really hard to play against him.
Yeah. All right. The last AFC team, I didn't really want to do this, but I felt like I didn't have any choice just because where my record was. But the Tennessee Titans, just keep in mind, week 13, 14, 15, and 16, that's all going to be more than likely force wins for whoever I play, unless they feel generous enough to let it be a fair sim. So that's four losses I got coming my way. That's going to put me at six for the year if I win out. So what do you think about the Titans?
I actually want you to go first on this one.
I, I don't really know. I feel pretty good. If I wasn't missing those 4 weeks, I knew that my schedule beginning of the year was tough. I started with Texans, Jags, Eagles, second, third, fourth week of the year. I started out 1-2-1, but I knew after the Eagles game, I had about 5 games in a row that I felt were winnable, and I won all
Hmm.
5 of them. But now I'm starting this next advance. I'm starting the tough schedule again. I play Frank, and then the Texans. I'll play both those games. I could win or lose both of those games. Texans put a good whooping on me the first of the year, so I'm kind of ready to get a rematch with him. But I feel like if I wasn't missing those 4 weeks, I feel like I could maybe finish with 10 wins. But I don't know if that would be good enough. That would be 10, 5-1. I just don't know if that would be good enough for the playoffs still.
I think in AFC that's definitely doable. And then I mean I mean if Texans has a meltdown, the division is yours with that record. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'm looking at the rest of. So I'm just gonna say right now, I think you're definitely a contender, regardless of the weeks you're gonna miss. And the reason I say that is because going into it, I mean, unless if you say you're gonna play 2 more games, right?
I'll play Colts, Texans, and then the Colts at the end. I'll miss Jets, Jags, Giants, Redskins. So
Okay. Yeah. So you're setting. I think right now you're putting yourself in a good position. You're 6-2 right now. Even if you lose the next 2 games, like you're still not in the worst position for those sims. But if you win at least one of the, if you win one, like it's okay. But if you definitely win the next 2, you're at 8-2, 8-2-1, and those sims you could lose 2 of those sims and you'd still be in the running for playoffs. So and you tied with who I think is one of the best teams in the league.
right.
That says a lot. And I mean, looking at the last 2 games, like you're figuring out your offense. I think you're gonna scare some teams. The only team I really see, well, you're not gonna be there for week 15, but
Yeah, unfortunately, that would be a little rivalry renewed
mm-hmm.
between us. But I don't know. I would feel good, like I said, if I wasn't getting married and going on my honeymoon. But that's a little bit more important than Madden right now. So
Oh yeah,
I'll
definitely.
take that. But if we luck up and make the playoffs, we'll try to be a contender. If not, we'll focus our.
And if you don't, you get a decent draft pick.
Well, I traded them, so
Oh yeah, that's
not
right.
really. Long will get them, but we'll turn our focus to season 2 and try to make some noise then. So, all right, moving on from that. That'll be the end of contender pretender. Just a couple additional news and notes before we wrap up. Safety and linebackers. We kind of had a little. If you were in chat earlier, you saw it. Just make sure you're not moving your safeties to linebackers. You can only do it, I believe, if you're running a certain defense and it puts the
Yep.
safety there themselves.
So like nickel 4-1-6 is something that would be okay because the linebacker is naturally in that position.
Right.
But you cannot put linebackers in the sub linebacker position on the depth chart. So just don't do
Yeah.
it. You can even flick the right stick if there's a package for safety to linebacker, but otherwise, no.
Yeah. So stay out of the depth chart. Don't move safeties to linebackers in depth chart. If it's like OMG said, packages, that's fine. But stay out of the depth chart and moving them around. We talked about pre-snap movement a couple weeks ago. We had another incident, I think, this past week. Just make sure you're not doing any pre-snap movement. They're getting serious about it. They're going to start taking away trade privileges if they see it anymore. So just stay away from pre-snap movement. And then we just recently joined League Crawler. If you don't know what League Crawler is, hop on Twitter, give them a search, give them a follow. They basically help us get our name out in the Madden community. They're going to help us with recruiting and just, like I said, getting our name out into the Madden community. What are your
And
Go ahead.
what were we gonna say?
I was just going to ask you what your thoughts were on us joining League Crawler.
Oh, I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, MHU, I love MHU, but um, I don't know. I'm in 2 other leagues right now, and I'm not really crazy about them, so I'm looking for a second. So being introduced to that website was kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
But in thinking that mentality, like someone like me who's been playing for a while and I want to find a new league, same thing is going to be for other owners. Hopefully they find us and we can keep building, because I know that we got a couple guys who could be a little bit more active, but it is what it is.
Yep. And then just to end the show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, Madden Heads United, and then follow us on Twitter if you haven't as well, Madden Heads U. Um, we're putting a lot of things out on Twitter, and then all these videos go straight to our YouTube page as well.
Oh,
Um,
and if people go on League Crawler and rate us and leave a comment, don't they get
they,
one boost for one rating?
yeah, they get
Oh,
one attribute boost for one rating. So make sure you go leave us a review, 10 stars, and then direct
tell us
message
why you love
Hotep,
us.
and yeah, and he'll get you an attribute point to your player. So, but I believe that is it for this week. We will be back. I'm not really sure. Probably 2 weeks from today, just because I'll be on the honeymoon next week. Probably 3 weeks actually. I don't know. I'll figure it out and I'll post it in the chat. Um, but other than that, do you have anything before we sign off?
Nope. This was a pretty good sesh. I know that a lot of people were not, or maybe a little fond actually, of me taking shots. It's all love. I know I'm not the greatest. I'm probably going to go one and done in the playoffs, but I like to spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, we gotta have fun with it. So until next time, this is Vols and OMG signing off. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Adios, chicos.